Hey, welcome to a bonus episode of the Juicebox Podcast with Rev Run, right? Come on, huh? Run DMC, Rev Run. Joseph Simmons is on the podcast, on my little podcast. Get out of here. This bonus episode of the podcast is all about, I should say, welcome to the Juicebox Podcast. All right, how do I get Rev Run on the podcast? Novo Nordisk has a thing. It's what's a word I'm looking for here? When you want to do something. Hold on a second. Initiative. It was initiative is the word I was looking for. Let's go again. You know what? Let's just keep going. Novo Nordisk has an initiative called Ask, Screen, No, and it helps you find out if you are, in different risk factor. Hey, it's late, guys. Ask, Screen, No helps you find out if you are in different risk categories for type 2 diabetes. I went to AskScreenNo.com today before I talked to Rev. Be honest, it took about 30 seconds to see what categories I fall into. And Rev doesn't actually have type 2 diabetes. He just falls into a lot of risk categories. And those categories have helped him make some changes in his life. So he's going to talk about the importance of pre-screening. And we're going to talk about the rule of halves. If you haven't heard about that, you definitely want to listen. It's a startling statistics about type 2 diabetes. In the end, this episode's about taking good care of yourself. And let's be honest, it's about talking to Run from Run DMC. I mean, come on. Seriously, why is he on the podcast, you ask? Because it's fun, my son. And Run heads the bill.
Scott.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear us?
Yes, you're a little hollow, but it sounds good.
Sounds good?
Yep.
Good. All right. I am going to pass the mic to Rev.
Excellent.
And we'll be good to go. Hold on.
Beautiful.
Hello?
Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Good morning. How are you?
Good, well,
Excellent. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I just, before, we're starting, it's a podcast. Everything you say is going to be included.
Cool.
But I have to say, last night, we're getting ready for bed, and I told my daughter's endocrinologist, so my daughter has type 1, and her endo appointment's this afternoon. And I told her, hey, in the morning, you're going to need to get up and kind of do your own thing, because I'm going to be talking with Rev Run from Run DMC. And she goes, oh, and just like that, I said, you know who that is? And she said, yeah, she's 12. And she starts to put on what appears to be a best of Run DMC show for us in my bedroom. And I was okay. Like, I understood she knew Run's house, and I understood she knew Walk This Way. And then when she's all done, I'm like, where do you know all this from? And she goes, I'm Tricky. And then she paused and went, Tricky, 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 Tricky. And I was like, get the hell out of here.
That's a lot. That's very, 12 years old, that's a lot.
I was like, wow. So I guess what it made me think of, and it, like right off the bat, is when you had so much influence over culture, is that, is that humbling? How does that feel exactly?
How do I say? I guess it's very, very humbling. It leaves me almost speechless. To believe that she said all of these things, she's 12 years old and shocked you, shocks me. As shocked as you was, as shocked as I am.
Yeah, because, especially with new music comes rolling out so quickly nowadays. Like, my son's, 5 seconds, he's saying, it's Meek Mill, and then I try to make fun of him 6 weeks later with that, and he's like, I don't listen to that anymore. It goes so quick, and now I don't know. I was proud of her at the same time. And then I kind of was proud when she left the room. I said to my wife, I'm like, we're doing a good job of I don't know where she got that. I literally, I guess I'm...
You couldn't take credit for that.
I think Apple Music might have to take credit for it, to be perfectly honest.
You take credit for something that you have much to do with it.
Yeah, well, you're very kind. But okay, it's interesting when the opportunity came to talk to you, my mind just went to the idea that you must have type 2 and I don't know it. And then, and you don't though. So what got you involved in all of this?
What got me involved was my manager, to tell the truth. His father had diabetes, and my father had diabetes, and he was talking with Novo Nordisk, and I give out lots of wisdom on the internet, um, colleges. I do a lot of speaking, and I wasn't talking a lot about health at the time, so I just took it as a sign from God that this is time for me to start speaking about health. And I just started tweeting things like "health is the first wealth," and do it afraid and things like that. And I got me and sat down with Novo Nordisk, and I had to take my risk factor, and I realized I had a lot of risk factors, and then I got screened. I didn't have diabetes, and I realized that since my father had it, it's in my history, and I'm African American. I'm over 50 years old. It's all these reasons that it could happen to me. So my mind is always on, you know what, let me get up, let me go do a little bit of walking, let me pass these french fries up or whatever for something else. I know I want ice cream, but maybe today I'll just have an apple.
Right.
These type of things are on my mind. And I believe that, I have a mission, and for me being a reverend from God, to talk to people. And I think, I'm here to use my influence and my inspiration and my words of wisdom and my social media accounts to talk to people. So I'm very proud to be part of working with Novo Nordisk and talking to people, and hopefully I get the message across. I've been doing it for some time.
Yeah.
So I'm very proud to be a part of this, and it also keeps me on point.
It's funny, as the today was coming up, I started looking more and more into it, because I realized, as someone who knows probably a great deal about type 1 diabetes, I have a pedestrian understanding of type 2. And so I looked into it, and I learned about something called the rule of halves. Have you heard of that?
Never heard of it.
Yeah. So they say 387 million people worldwide have type 2, but only 50%, or half of them, are ever diagnosed. And of those 50% who are diagnosed, only 50% receive care, and then only 50% of those people achieve their targets, and only 50% of those people have outcomes that they think of as positive.
Wow.
So to break that down, out of every 10 people that have type 2 diabetes, slightly over one of them ends up with a good result. And I think it's because of what you were just talking about, which is it's easy for all of us to look and say, hey, I should be moving around more. I should be eating a little better. But then in those day-to-day moments, maybe that's not the easiest decision to make. And for some people, maybe you wouldn't have gotten to that situation if that was an easy decision for you. So how do you think people translate this good information into like real world, like, actions?
Well, the actions will come through your own willpower. For me, my actions come through just knowing that I'm at risk, and my actions also come from I do it for my family many times. Many times people don't want to do things for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But I realize that my decisions can affect my children. That really pushes me. So when I think about my children or my wife and, their love for me and my love for them, it keeps me motivated to get up and go walk. Before I came out to Philly, I'm in Philadelphia now, on Saturday, I went walking twice. I just felt like the need to go out again. It was burning hot earlier, so I only walked around the park one lap. Then when it got around 6 o'clock, I said, I probably didn't do enough. So I went and did 2 laps around 6 o'clock, and I felt good about it. And these are the things that, this morning I woke up and I had breakfast, and I'm conscious of it again, just conscious of what I'm eating, how much exercise I'm getting. And I want to be healthy, and I want to spread the word that everybody that follows me and knows about my career and about what I'm doing on social media. When I go out and speak, I just want everybody to be as healthy as they possibly can. And I want everybody to get screened. And I send them to AskScreenKnow.com. And we have this big exhibit at 30th Street Station. And you can go there and you can actually get screened. Or not screened, you can get you can take your risk factor assessment right there. It's a beautiful exhibit. It's really nice.
And so you're down in Philly at 30th Street Station, and Novo has this exhibit set up, and I can come in right now, walk right in off the street and find out what my risk factors are.
Yep, all the way to the 21st of August. It'll be there.
Okay.
It's really nice, and I think it'll get a lot of people's attention. It's a picture of me and my wife and some other people on there. It's very interesting. I'm happy to be involved with it.
Well, I went to the website about an hour ago before we started talking to see the Ask Screen No initiative, and I took honestly, if it took me 30 seconds to figure out what my risk factors were, that was pretty much it. And it was interesting because some of the questions it asked me were just, like you said earlier, just age, just my weight, my level of activity, and things that I didn't think of as being factors for anything were all sort of staring me in the face,
Yeah, it's actually, it has no face these days. You don't know. You can look very healthy and can tall, short, overweight, underweight. It's just anyone can. You can't pick them out anymore, and you just have to know that it could be anybody.
Yeah.
So we do. Yeah.
It's not as simple as looking in the mirror and thinking I look like I might be at risk for something. You
can't say I'm not African American. I'm not overweight. You can't say that.
So I'm good. So and you know what? In the last couple of weeks, I hear what you're saying about having experiences that make you feel like you want to do more. In the last couple of weeks, I had a gentleman come out to my house to look at some work I needed at my house. And before I knew it, my daughter's glucose monitor, made a noise, and I pulled it out. And I said, "Oh, excuse me for a second. My daughter has type 1 diabetes." And the guy immediately says, "I have diabetes too. I have type 2. And he starts talking about it, Rev, and the way he spoke about it was as if it was just an aside in his life. And he said very offhandedly, "My blood sugar's probably 300 right now." And he knew that wasn't okay for him. He didn't want it to be that way, but it didn't look like he had any knowledge, like real world knowledge about how to help himself in that situation. And it was heartbreaking, honestly, because I felt
people sometimes feel powerless and they don't have to. You can just make little changes. I've been making changes, and I'm getting up there in age, and I just have to be more filled with activities. As when I was younger, I was playing basketball and I'm out running around every day. Now if I'm not working or I'm not in the office or something, I just get up and I go do some walking, because when I was younger, it was just a natural to be running around, jumping around all day long. But I'm like, really? So I'm just not as active as I used to be, and I just have to keep continuously remind myself to move.
Yeah. It's and what about the eating? Like do you have a cooking show?
Yeah, I have a cooking show.
And so what kind of cooking do you do? And is it fancier?
It's pretty healthy.
Something?
We have it's a cooking show. We cook a lot of different things, but we do lots of it's a reality show also. So
okay.
Many days I'll talk about a cheat day, or I'll talk about what we're cooking, and it's not just a free fall, just making all types of very high calorie foods, because it's part of my life, and my truth is that I'm trying to cook and make things that are that fit where I'm at, and that's what I do.
Yeah. Especially
with 1 in 3 American adults are definitely at risk, so I have to make sure that what I'm talking about is on point for me. That's why I do reality television, because it's easy for me to tell my truth.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you take up that mantle, when you decide I'm going to be a mouthpiece and try to get the word out a little wider. I guess it does kind of put that pressure back on you to kind of follow what you're saying. Have you felt that? Like, have you felt the idea like I have?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm working along with Novo Nordisk to talk to people about their risk factors keeps me on point.
Yeah.
And the fact that I'm tweeting about it and talking about it, I have to think about it every single day, and it's very helpful. I'm thankful to God that Novo Nordisk has given me the opportunity to talk about it, because it keeps me not only talking about it for others, but I live up to it the best I can.
So maybe in the the attempt to keep a healthy body, maybe everyone else needs to find a person to or something in their life maybe to make them answer to, almost like I don't even know. That sounds harsh.
No, that's not harsh. I mean, that's why I'm happy that I'm out there. Many people followed my career as Run DMC get to see me, they say, oh, snap, there goes Rev Run. Oh, what's he talking about? And then there's somebody for them to look to that they looked up to as a musician, and now you've seen on a television show with his wife and kids, trying to take care of himself. So it's helpful, and I'm happy to be able to inspire.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I know I feel my daughter's had type 1 for a decade now, just last month. And, I've been doing things like this online for a long time. And when you see somebody come back with positive results, and it feels incumbent upon you to keep going and tell as many people as you can.
Yeah, I have Jeanette Jordan here with me also, who has some expertise. Maybe you want to talk to her a little bit. She's really good. She's a certified diabetes educator.
Okay, in a second, Jeanette Jordan's going to come on and talk a little more about the Ask Screen No initiative, and then we'll get back to Rev for a couple of questions at the end, and then, it's a short episode, we'll be out. But just now, here's where I want to really, really kind of let you know the web address. It's AskScreenKnow.com. AskScreenKnow.com. It really will take you 30 seconds to see what your risk factors are, and you don't have to put in any personal information. So if you want to talk about the initiative on Twitter, the hashtag is RevOnAsk, and Rev Run is on Twitter at RevRunWisdom. Blow him up a little bit, let him know you heard him on the podcast. That'd be cool. For regular listeners to the podcast, I know this isn't type 1 related, but it's just about health, and especially for us caregivers for people with type 1, sometimes we have a propensity to ignore our own health, and so I just thought this was really important. And let's be honest, and Rev Run's on the podcast. How am I saying no to that? But moreover, I've just realized recently how little I know about type 2 diabetes, and I'm starting to see it affect people around me, and I'm just trying to get the word out. All right, let's get back to it.
Hi, Scott.
Hey, how are you? Go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Sure, yes. My name is Jeanette Jordan, and I'm a registered dietitian, and I'm also a certified diabetes educator working with Novo Nordisk.
Excellent. So you guys are down at 30th Street Station right now in Philadelphia. People can go in there till end of the month, till the 31st?
21st.
Okay, the 21st. And it's, am I at risk is the thing. And so what are you hoping that happens down there?
Okay, so what we're hoping that happens is, we have so many people that are at risk for diabetes. As Rev Run said, 1 in 3 Americans are at risk. The other thing is that 29 million Americans have diabetes, and 1 in 4 people don't even realize they have it. So knowing your risk factor is very important, because we know that diabetes is a serious condition, and if you have it and you don't know it, there are a lot of complications like eye problems, kidney problems that can occur. And we're wanting people to live a long, healthy life. So our goal right now is to encourage everyone to go and know their risk factors. So they at the exhibit, and it's really beautiful. It's a large traveling exhibit with 2-sided mirrors that enables the visitors and people to actually see themselves as they look at the other people who are there, and it just helps you see the faces that are at risk. Because sometimes we think, oh, this person may be at risk, but this person wouldn't be. But at the display, you can see all types of people from all ethnic groups, all ages, and people who you think, oh, surely that person doesn't have it. But the risk factors are actually several. Being of the age of 45, being from an ethnic group, having high blood pressure, lacking in physical activity, being overweight. The list just goes on. And at the exhibit, all the risk factors are actually listed as well, so people can read them, and then they can go to the iPad, and it only takes a few minutes to take the risk factor assessment, and then that way they'll know. And if they have 1 or more risk factors, what we're asking them to do is to go to AskScreenKnow.com, get more information. Also, check in with their doctor, make an appointment, be screened, and then begin to make some healthy lifestyle changes that can help them to have a long, healthier life. And it's not just for them, but their family members and their friends. So we're just wanting everybody to know their risk factors for diabetes. Yes.
Yeah, you know what, and I'm going to add too that I've been doing a little digging, and if people who are on Medicare who are over 65, Medicare covers 2 screenings per year, actually. Mm-hmm. So if you're in that situation and you're listening, don't don't feel like I can't afford it. It's, it's an extra for me. You can absolutely. And so okay, so I think I hear what you're saying, and I like the idea. So I stand in this mirror and I see myself a person who maybe I don't think I have any risk factors for type 2 diabetes. And then I see all these other faces and body shapes and styles next to me. And I think, wow, that guy looks a little like me, or
Absolutely.
right. That sort of, it's a really kind of brilliant idea.
It is a brilliant idea.
Yeah. And so the website, I'm going to put links together with the show so people can find them right away, but it's basically ask, screen, and know. Is that the idea?
That's it. Ask, screen, know. Absolutely.
Okay. Because even if you have risk factors, but you're not type 2 or even pre-diabetic, then there's small changes like Rev was just talking about, like maybe grab an apple instead of ice cream, go for an extra walk. These sorts of little things in your life that you can do that honestly could take you from maybe heading into, a situation to not heading into it. Is it really that simple that just a little extra effort really could make a huge change for yourself?
Absolutely. And just having a family member who has diabetes, parents or grandparents, siblings. And you're right. And one of the things that I talk about a lot as an educator is that small lifestyle changes can yield big health results. Something as simple, like you said, as Ron said about, wanting that bowl of ice cream, but saying, okay, well, maybe not today, I'll do an apple. Also something as simple as what we drink. Many people don't realize how many calories and carbohydrates and sugar we get in from regular soda and sweetened lemonade or, these sweet punches. And it's like drinking sugar. So a lot of people that I work with, sometimes if they made that one simple change, that it makes a huge difference in their blood sugars and their weight gain. And that's a simple change that can yield a big result. Also, moderation in portion sizes. I'm a dietitian, but I don't have a long list of things that people can never have because people really don't do well with that. So it's like, okay, you can have the foods you like, but do we have to eat 3 servings of them at one time? Right. And perhaps we can learn that a serving of pasta is a third cup or potatoes is a half cup versus, a cup and a half. So it's like just moderating what you're doing. And then what Rev said is so important is getting in some physical activity. And I like what he said because I can think, well, I can't afford a gym membership and I don't have time. But you can walk. You can walk in your neighborhood. You can walk in the park. You can walk with your children. We all have that capability. So you're exactly right. The small changes can yield a big health. And something as simple as seeing your doctor once a year or twice a year for screening. People go years without getting a physical or seeing their doctor. And so when they find the diabetes or hypertension, sometimes they've had it for a long time. And there's a possibility that complications could be already starting to set in. That's why the Ask Screen Know campaign is so important, and we're so grateful to Novo Nordisk for heading this so that people can begin to know their risk earlier and get screened and find out where they are so they can live a longer, healthier life and be here for our families and our loved ones.
Yeah, I find that putting it into more digestible terms sometimes is a helpful way to get people to take action because here's something I can tell you. So my daughter wears a continuous glucose monitor as a type 1 diabetic, so I can see her blood sugar constantly. Now I don't have diabetes, so I might be sitting here right now talking to you with a blood sugar of 85. Even if my daughter's blood sugar is well controlled and it's 110, it's still 25 points higher. And when I tell people that sugar, when you were just talking about drinking sugar, if you take sugar and throw it out on the countertop and it's coarse and granular and sharp, when it gets to the molecular size, it's still like that. It's coursing through your veins, extra sugar. And when people talk later about, I had, that gentleman, he died of heart disease, from diabetes, or it's a complication of diabetes, this happened to him. What really happened to you is that your body was sort of sandblasted from the inside out. For the lack of a better term, right? You're being scraped by the sugar inside of your blood, and that blood that goes everywhere inside of your body.
Yeah, and you're right. So the sugar, the white table sugar, when it's digested, it actually turns to glucose, right? But it's still sugar running through your veins. And with diabetes, it's more sugar in there than what should be. And, because your blood pumps from your head to your toe, you're exactly right. The blood sugar is now affecting every organ in your body, your eyes, your kidneys, your circulatory system. So you're right. I mean, it's affecting you all over. And so and so it's so important that those blood sugars be in the normal range. And so seeing your doctor, knowing your risk factors, making these small changes can help us all, be healthier. Absolutely.
And if you have prediabetes for type 2, your blood sugar could be elevated slightly at 110, 120. You might live like that for a decade, and maybe needlessly, like you're saying, with small adjustments, it could you could have a really positive effect on your blood sugar, and maybe keep yourself from ever having full blown type 2. It's great. I really appreciate your message. I was hoping, if Rev's still there, I have a couple extra questions for him. Thank you so much. No, thank you. Hey, before I finish up with Rev Run, just let me say it one more time. AskScreenKnow.com. Go do it.
Hello?
Rev, hey, I had a couple questions for you still.
Sure.
Yeah, so you brought your father up earlier, and you said he had type 2. So in the Black community, is type 2 diabetes seen as something serious, or do people almost think of it as like some sort of a birthright, like it's going to come to me at some point? And does that make them less likely, when somebody thinks something's going to definitely happen, does it make them less likely to try to act to affect it differently?
Well, where I come from and the people that are around me, it's a very serious. People they want to work out, they want to take care of themselves, they don't like it being associated with them, so people take it very serious. I mean, if you see something, a meme or anything, or people talking about it, it's not a positive thing. It's not like, I'm going to have diabetes. That's not, people have high self-esteem around me, rappers and people, they don't want to be associated with any type of illness. So it's never like, that's not the way people around me think. They always take it very serious.
So it's a mindset then. It's the idea that, I don't want someone to look at me and just based on how I look or who I am to think that this is just going to happen to me and I have no way around it.
No, that's not how they are in the African American community. At least around me.
And I asked that not because of color, but because I spoke in the Dominican Republic for something a couple years ago, and because of so many people there getting type 1 diabetes, it started to become people. It was just very accepted all of a sudden. Like just the idea of like this, if this happens to me, then I accept it. It's going to shorten my life. It wasn't, if this happens to me, then these are the steps I can take. And I just found that very interesting, that as a community, as a culture, that they could take something and just be so passive about it, actually. And I know that, like what you alluded to it a little bit, that people will poke fun.
Yes, they will.
Right. That
at anybody.
Right. Right.
For self-esteem is everything in where I'm from. You don't want to be associated with anything that's weak or not. So there's never like, oh, I'm just gonna have diabetes when I get older. That's not the way we think. It's you want to take care of yourself. You want to look good. You want to feel good about yourself. All these selfies and things. People want to be associated with happiness and strength. So there's never a thing where he's like, "Oh, I'm doomed to have this." That's not the way we think.
Yeah. So So I guess what you do then is you take that pride you felt prior to something happening, because it's easy to say. It's very easy to say that people that you get I mean, we're talking around it, but people think if you have type 2 diabetes, it's because you don't eat well, and that's the end of it.
Exactly, people do think that,
and that's obviously
that's not the truth.
Right.
That's why we're saying, and we have the display up that can be the picture of perfect health, the picture, and not be healthy. So we're making sure that people go to 30th Street Station, and you'll see what we're talking about in that display.
Right. So I guess the idea is then you see yourself in that photo, and
Exactly.
and you think, you know what, I am a person with a lot of pride. I don't want to be sick. If there's something I can do to affect this, I really
Exactly.
you need to do it now, not later.
People want to take action.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. It's beautiful. It really is. Well, listen, I know you have a really busy day, and I know we have a little more time scheduled, but to be perfectly honest, Rev, if we stay on any longer, I'm just going to start asking you to do lines from my favorite songs. So
We'll leave that to your daughter.
you know what? You're making a lot of sense. I might splice her in at the end. She was really, and she was dancing and everything. And my wife is staring at me, and she's like, "I thought she just knew like what was on hits one
or two songs, right?"
It was really something. But I just genuinely appreciate you doing this and
thanks, man.
and bringing up the idea that being pre-screened is not difficult to do and does not take a lot of time. So,
thank you.
Hey, thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Hey, huge thank you to Rev for coming on the show. I mean, that couldn't have been any cooler. I hope you guys go to AskScreenKnow.com and find out if you are in any risk categories for type 2 diabetes and make changes in your life if you are. And if you're in Philadelphia at 30th Street Station until August 21st, which is just a couple more days, but the Novo display down there, there's some pictures of it back at the at juiceboxpodcast.com. You can see it's really interesting, and you can actually check your risk factors right there at the at the station. So if you're a commuter going through 30th Street the next couple of days, take a stop, take a picture, put it on Twitter, something like that, with the hashtag, and tag me in it. Please tag Juicebox Podcast in it. I'd love to see. All right, thank you. Nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered medical advice, especially, or advice of any kind, really. In the end, it's just a podcast. We're trying to help people. If the podcast is helping you, please share it with a friend. I'll see you next week.